The Battle of Salamis. How 300 ships changed history forever. The Greeks were about to lose everything. Their cities burned, their armies crushed, and now a Persian fleet 3 times their size was closing in. What happened next in the narrow waters of Salamis would decide if Western civilization would even exist. This is the story of the Battle of Salamis in 480 BC. Most people know about the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae, but what almost nobody talks about is what happened right after that defeat. The Persians were unstoppable. They had burned Athens to the ground. The Greek army was scattered, and now King Xerxes had assembled the largest naval fleet the ancient world had ever seen. Over 1,000 warships were heading straight for the last Greek resistance. The Greeks had maybe 370 ships. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and out of options. But one Athenian general named Themistocles had a plan so crazy that it just might work. And if it failed, Greece would become part of the Persian Empire and history would look completely different today. Let me set the stage for you, because the situation was absolutely desperate. In 480 BC, the Persian Empire was the superpower of the ancient world. King Xerxes controlled everything from Egypt to India. His army had just marched through northern Greece like it was nothing. At Thermopylae, 300 Spartans and their allies held them off for 3 days, but in the end, they were wiped out. After that, there was basically nothing stopping the Persians from taking all of Greece. The Persians kept pushing south. They reached Athens, and you know what they found? An empty city. The Athenians had evacuated everyone. Women, children, elderly people, they all got packed onto ships and sent to nearby islands. The men stayed behind to fight, but they abandoned the city itself. And the Persians just burned it. They destroyed the temples, the homes, everything. The Acropolis went up in flames. Now here's where it gets really bad for the Greeks. The Persian fleet was massive. Ancient sources say Xerxes had over 1,000 ships, though modern historians think it was probably closer to 600 to 800 after some losses in storms and earlier battles. But even with that lower number, they still massively outnumber the Greeks. The Greek alliance had about 370 to 380 ships, and most of those were Athenian triremes. A trireme was the main warship of that era. Picture a long, narrow wooden ship with 3 rows of oars on each side. These things were built for speed and ramming. The front had a bronze ram at water level, and the goal in naval combat was to ram enemy ships, break their oars, or board them. They were fast but fragile. One good hit could sink a trireme. Each trireme needed about 170 rowers working together in perfect rhythm. That's 170 men rowing in 3 levels, packed into a ship that was only about 120 feet long and maybe 18 feet wide. The coordination required was insane. If one section of rowers messed up, the whole ship would slow down or turn the wrong way. So the Greeks are looking at this situation, and most of them want to retreat. The other Greek city-states are saying we should pull back to the Isthmus of Corinth, build a wall there, and defend the Peloponnese Peninsula. Forget Athens, it's already gone. Let's protect what we have left. But Themistocles, the Athenian general, is saying no way. He knows that if they fight on land, the Persians will crush them. The Persian army is way too big. The only chance Greece has is to fight at sea, where their smaller, more maneuverable ships might have an advantage. But he needs the perfect location. He needs somewhere the Persians can't use their numbers against them. And that's when he looks at the Straits of Salamis. Salamis is an island right off the coast of Athens. Between the island and the mainland, there's a narrow channel of water. Some parts are less than a mile wide. Themistocles realizes that if he can lure the Persian fleet into that narrow space, their numbers won't matter. They won't be able to form proper battle lines. They'll get jammed up, crash into each other, and the Greek ships, which are heavier and better in close combat, will have the advantage. But there's a huge problem. The other Greek commanders don't trust this plan. They think it's suicide. They want to retreat. And Themistocles knows that if the fleet leaves Salamis, it's over. The Greeks will never come back together. The alliance will fall apart. Persia wins. Now, Themistocles had been preparing for this moment for years. A decade earlier, he had convinced Athens to use silver from newly discovered mines to build a massive fleet instead of just distributing the money to citizens. People thought he was crazy. Why does Athens need 200 warships? But Themistocles saw what was coming. He knew Persia would invade eventually, and he knew Athens needed to be a naval power to survive. So Themistocles does something absolutely wild. He sends a secret message to Xerxes. He pretends to betray the Greeks. The message says that the Greek fleet is about to retreat tonight, and if Xerxes attacks now, he can trap them and destroy them while they're trying to escape. He's basically daring the Persians to sail into the straits. And Xerxes takes the bait. The night before the battle, the Persian fleet moves into position. Xerxes orders his ships to block both exits of strait. He doesn't want a single Greek ship to escape. The Persians row through the night in the dark, getting into position. They're exhausted before the battle even starts, which is going to matter a lot. Meanwhile, the Greek commanders are still arguing. Some of them are literally about to sail away. But then a ship arrives with news. It's Aristides, an Athenian politician who had been exiled but came back to help. He tells them that they can't leave even if they wanted to. The Persians have surrounded them. They're trapped. And that's when everyone realizes what Themistocles has done. He forced this battle to happen. There's no retreat now. They either fight here or they die here. When morning comes, the Greeks see the Persian fleet. It's an insane sight. Hundreds and hundreds of ships filling the water. The Persians have ships from all over their empire. Phoenician ships, which were some of the best in the world. Egyptian ships, ships from Ionia, which were actually crewed by Greeks who were forced to fight for Persia. It's this massive, diverse fleet, and it's heading straight into the narrow waters. Xerxes himself sets up a throne on a hill overlooking the strait. He wants to watch his navy crush the Greeks. He has scribes with him to write down the names of commanders who fight well, so he can reward them later. He's that confident this is going to be a massacre. The Greek fleet forms up. The Athenians take one wing. The Spartans and Corinthians take the other. They're rowing backward at first, like they're retreating, drawing the Persians deeper into the strait. And the Persians chase them because they think the Greeks are scared. This backward rowing was actually a standard Greek naval tactic. It looked like a retreat, but it was really a way to control the battle space. By rowing backward, the Greeks were pulling the Persians exactly where they wanted them, into the narrowest part of the channel. Then the trap springs. The Greeks stop retreating. They form a line and charge. And suddenly everything goes wrong for the Persians. Their ships are packed too close together. The front line tries to engage the Greeks, but the ships behind them keep pushing forward because they don't know what's happening up front. Ships start crashing into each other. Oars are getting tangled and broken. It's chaos. The Greek triremes are heavier and more solid. When they ram Persian ships, they do serious damage. The bronze rams punch holes right through the hulls. Ships start sinking. The Persians try to back up, but they can't because there are hundreds of ships behind them all jammed together. And here's something that gave the Greeks another advantage. Most Greek sailors and marines knew how to swim. It was part of their training. But a lot of the Persian sailors didn't know how to swim. So when a ship went down, the Greeks could jump in the water and make it to shore or to another ship. The Persians drowned. The battle turns into a nightmare for Persia. Greek ships are ramming them from every angle. Some Persian ships try to retreat but crash into their own fleet. The narrow strait that was supposed to trap the Greeks is now trapping the Persians. They can't maneuver. They can't use their superior numbers. Every advantage they had on paper means nothing in this tight space. There's one story that really shows how brutal this battle was. Queen Artemisia of Halicarnassus was commanding a Persian ship, and she was actually one of their better commanders. At one point, she's being chased by a Greek ship and she can't escape. So she does something ruthless. She rams one of her own allied ships and sinks it. The Greek captain sees this and thinks she must be a Greek ship that switched sides, so he leaves her alone. She escapes by sacrificing her own allies. The fighting goes on for hours. The water is filled with broken ships, bodies, and debris. The Persians are completely falling apart. Some of their best ships, the Phoenician ones, get destroyed early in the battle. The crews that survive start trying to flee. But remember, Xerxes had blocked both exits. Now his own ships are trapped by his own strategy. By the end of the day, the Persian fleet is shattered. Ancient sources say they lost 200 ships or more. The Greeks lost maybe 40. It's a complete disaster for Persia. All those ships from different parts of the empire, all that naval power, just broken in one afternoon. Xerxes watches the whole thing from his throne on the hill. He sees his massive fleet, the pride of his empire, get absolutely destroyed by a smaller Greek force. And he knows right then that his invasion is falling apart. Here's what makes this battle one of the most important moments in human history. If the Persians had won at Salamis, Greece would have been conquered. And that means no golden age of Athens. No Parthenon, no Greek philosophy, no Socrates, no Plato, no Aristotle. No Greek drama, no democracy as we know it. All of that came after the Greeks survived this invasion. Western civilization, as we know, it was decided in those narrow waters. The ideas that would shape Europe, influence Rome, and eventually spread across the world only happened because 370 Greek ships held the line against an empire that controlled half the known world. After Salamis, Xerxes left. He took what was left of his fleet and sailed back to Asia. He left his army behind under a general named Mardonius, but the momentum was broken. The next year, the Greeks defeated that army at the Battle of Plataea, and the Persian invasion was over for good. But it was Salamis that turned the tide. That's where the Greeks proved they could win. That's where one brilliant strategy by Themistocles saved Western civilization. The Battle of Salamis is one of those moments where everything was on the line. The Greeks were outnumbered, outmatched, and out of options. Their capital was in ruins. Their enemies surrounded them. By every logical measure, they should have lost. But Themistocles understood something crucial. Numbers don't matter if you can't use them. The Persians had more ships, but in the narrow strait of Salamis, those numbers became a weakness instead of strength. The Persian fleet couldn't maneuver, couldn't coordinate, couldn't bring their full power to bear. This battle shows that strategy can beat raw power. Intelligence can overcome size. And sometimes, one person with a crazy plan can change the entire course of history. Subscribe for more ancient history.